how quickly it would work. It would. I used to work in the National Military Command Center of the Pentagon, so they will tell the liaison, look, Vladimir, just take a name. We're going to have a Bulava missile launch at 12:02. Tell me exactly when the Americans saw it, so you immediately know our detection time and our warning time. You immediately get that Russian liaison officer there. We shouldn't have him in the room. In my view, we got to look at this situation. We got to take every crisis and move it to a positive direction. That the other day when the president called me, he doesn't call me that often because he knows I'm pretty critical of it. I weighed in on the subject of Poland. I gave him the money line that I tried. I knew that probably the number one thing going on in his life is building his legacy. I said, Mr. President, Western leaders really very poorly when they abandoned Poland in their legacy. And that's the big kahuna. I will just note that my senior colleague yesterday, Dick Durbin, said a very un-Dick Durbin-like thing, because he's pretty much a pacifist. He said, if Russia moves on Poland, then we've I would just say, duh. Poland is already a NATO ally of the United States. And we have the full commitment. We said the president just sent troops there. That is the real barrier that we just say the Western and European allies of the United States are going to be protected. The whole point of the DoD is to carry out that commitment.
Sure, we're going to do two questions. Rick? And go ahead.
Why do we not release part of our oil reserve as a tactic within our control that will create pressure on the Russian economy?
So let's pause on that one, and Jack with the second question.
Is the weakness that we've shown recently with respect to the Iranian situation harming us around the world and adding to the fear that we're not going to follow through on our promises elsewhere?
Yes, I would say what we are now witnessing is what I would call the metastasis of a weakness. And as David pointed out, you have problems now of massive rocket tests in North Korea because the Americans are perceived as very weak. And you have, I would argue, problems in the Senkaku Islands off Japan, merely because the U.S. commitment to Japan is not in out of doubt.
Can I? You want? Sure. Senator, there was a question about the oil reserve. I'd like to come back to Jack's question.
I would say that, we call this in the Senate, we call this SPRO issue, Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Once you release the SPRO, you basically played that card. That it's not a card that you can hold over the oil markets. We all really hesitate to call on releasing the SPRO. Because obviously cheap gas price in the United States is a pretty popular issue with the politicians. That as a foreign policy professional, you want to make sure the American president always has that card to throw to calm down the situation. I will tell you there's a specific side of the SPRO issue. The other day I was talking to a good buddy of mine, General Boogie Alon, who was the top level defense official in Israel. Minister. Yeah, I said, if we ever have this strike against Iran, I want you to do one thing. I want you to call our president up and say, the operation is underway, so Mr. President, so that you can release this SPRO to lower the price spike on the world oil market so the damage to the U.S. economy is minimized. I said that one statement will go a long way to establishing the good rapport between our president and your prime minister in a time of great stress. That I wanted to make sure that this alliance that we have with Israel stays strongest in even the toughest times.
I just wanted to add before we answer questions. Firstly, Rick, in addition to the strategic
43 years in the Navy Reserve and did a couple of reserve assignments in Afghanistan. I would not be the boots on the ground in Ukraine. And I'll just tell you, as a military intelligence officer, which I was, when you move that close to the Russian heartland, you were in a world of military hurt where the United States is not likely to prevail in a military mission. I would just note, think everybody about a lonely ship in the United States Navy called the USS Truxtun, which just finished a deployment to the Black Sea. I would hope that they would have an intel officer aboard, so that guy probably would have a serious conversation with his skipper and say, look, we are so close to Russia that in this little destroyer here, which has 2 anti-aircraft mounts, we could be up against upwards of 2,500 plus over supersonic targets coming to this ship, meaning this ship would not survive. That we have assets now in the region that we cannot protect. You want to make sure that if military action starts, that the Americans prevail. Because each one of the people on those units are sons and daughters with moms and dads back in the States. No suicide missions, in my view, is the way to execute military policy.
Balkan states, Ukraine, part of the EU. How do you visualize short-term and long-term in terms of realignment of those resources, for instance, coming from Cyprus, Israel, the United States? What kind of time frame and how could that change the paradigm?
How about next week, the Senate voting to allow liquefied natural gas exports to the United States, so that American LNG could be provided to countries like Ukraine who were adversely affected by Russian energy policies. Why not allow Americans to produce this LNG and export it? We are in such a bad state that we are hurting our own economy by not allowing the export of LNG. Right now, in the Senate, I think the statistic is the majority leader has only allowed 8 Republican amendments in the last couple of months. He is assured that amendment authorizing the construction of the Keystone Pipeline would carry, and as it should, because the American people strongly support that. For God's sakes, should we buy oil from the Canadians? I think that's the right way to go. Right now, we cannot vote on that amendment because the majority leader's policies.